What is up, homies? Welcome back to another episode of the Heroes Reforged podcast. We had a great conversation talking about the Fantastic Four, Doctor Doom, how they might integrate into the MCU. And we did that because originally we were going to talk about Captain America Brave New World, but we wanted to give everyone time to watch it. So we will be talking about non-spoilers and spoilers. We will let you know.
We'll put an alert.
Exactly.
Yes,
we'll let you know when we talk about spoilers.
Okay. Cool.
So, he just wants to tell everyone who died.
Already. Adam, tell them about your shirt real quick. Why is there a barcode? Why is there a QR code on it?
Well, so this shirt, we're demoing this one. This is different than the one that's in the store. It's a little bit of a different material. I actually really like it. So
it's a nice one.
But you can get more merch in our store, link down in the description below. We've got shirts, crew necks, hoodies, hats, soon chunkless and mugs.
Ooh, that's nice.
Just keep doing that for the rest of the show.
Wow.
That's just nice. This is the Adam massage episode.
So muscular, damn.
Also our Patreon, plenty of shows. A lot of people have been asking about
Lots
your
of
friendly
good
neighborhood
stuff.
Spider-Man. It's on there. Secret Level is on there. Daredevil Born Again will be on there. And there's going to be a ton of movies. We're going to be doing Mission Impossible films. So much stuff coming out in the next few months. So go check it out. There's a lot to enjoy. And I'm so excited to find out what Hector's pissed about this week.
I'm
If
not.
anything.
I think I'm the pissed one.
Yes.
Yeah, you are.
I
Actually,
think I'm the
that's
one
true.
that's
Augustine's
pissed off, dude.
Augustine is today.
It's crazy.
We'll definitely get into that with what this discussion will kind of lead into, but we should just sort of talk about our review of the movie Captain America Brave New World. We saw it. We now, by the time this is coming out, it's been out a week.
Mm-hmm.
So
A
I
full
think
week, yeah.
sorry to our producer Alex. Sorry, dude. We're gonna spoil the shit out of this.
First, non-spoilers.
First,
right?
we're gonna do a non-spoiler review.
Yes.
Adam and I went to go see it. We brought our buddy Keller. We know our old pal, and we had a good time. And
Friend
it
of
was
the
fun.
show.
Friend of the
Yeah,
show,
yeah,
Keller.
yeah.
But it was fun watching it with my two buddies because it was at certain moments, certain things would happen, and I was like laughing because I'm like, this is a cheesy, fun, good time.
Mhm.
And I'm gonna specifically mention which moment exactly like made me laugh, but also just the fun of like, oh man, Red Hulk is in this, and this is really fun to watch, and this is Captain America fighting Red Hulk, and so I had a very fun time, and I think that the movie does feel edited and kind of messed with, and it does feel like it did not have either the strongest just script at the script level coming out of the gate, or it did not have the strongest support of whatever that script and initial idea was. Am I mad that certain characters were apparently, written, shot, and filmed, and then edited out of the movie to kind of make room for, like, we have Giancarlo Esposito, like he's become available because of these reshoots or whatever the case was. Not necessarily. I'm not like, oh, but we really missed out on other members of the Serpent Society. I'm not really, but I am mad that some of those actors didn't get a chance to kind of be in this story ultimately. I'm hoping that Rosa Salazar gets to come back in some other capacity in this franchise. The same way that, like,
I didn't even know that she was in it.
she played Diamondback and she had pink hair, and there's a picture of her, like a sneaked photo of her on set. And it's the same with, like, Stephen Yeun was supposed to be in Thunderbolts, but then there were delays, and then there were, and so then Stephen had to, like, pass on the role for whatever reason. And that's a real bummer because I love that actor, and I hope that these actors are able to come back in some other capacity. So my overall review is that I had a real fun time with it. I do wish that elements of the movie were stronger, but I was also pleasantly surprised.
Can you give us one element that you wish was stronger?
Again, at the sort of script level.
Okay.
Some of the writing I thought was fantastic, and other parts of the story I was like, I wonder if any of this was, look, I'm going to be straight up, I'll be frank, okay? This is a black superhero character, directed by a black director, written by a few different writers, but I know they're black writers involved with this project. I worry that all of the people sort of in the decision makers, if you will, at Marvel Studios or at Disney or whatever, most of them are like well-meaning white guys. And maybe I'm giving them too much benefit of the doubt, like well-meaning. Like I worry that with this kind of character and storyline, that they may have been trepidatious to like go into some of this territory versus Ryan Coogler had such a strong vision with Black Panther that it is undeniable. It is like you cannot, if you neuter any part of this story, if you go, no, we're not going to go that hard with Killmonger, then there's like kind of no point in making that movie. Do you know what I'm saying? So I do worry about that. So could some of that stuff have been stronger? I think so, but at the same time, this is a superhero movie that I'll bring up a article that I sent you earlier before we started recording that kind of talks about this whole thing where I'm like, yeah, we are definitely holding Sam Wilson, the fictional character, to a different, higher standard than we held
100%.
Steve Rogers.
100%.
We would just let Steve Rogers just like have a good time movie. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But yeah, I do wish that this movie was ultimately like stronger overall, so that it was a bit more undeniable, so that there was a debate of like, is this the best Captain America movie? Is it better than Winter Soldier? Is it better than Civil War? You know, I like having those kinds of debates, and I think that the characters and the creators involved definitely deserve it. But overall thoughts, I had a good time, and I want to keep supporting these characters in this little corner of this franchise. So let's keep it going. What were your guys' I feel like we kind of were on the same page, Adam.
Yeah, I think so for the most part. I think there are definitely some script issues. I think you can obviously tell that there's some reshots that have been done, things that were changed. I feel like with the movie that ended up being on the big screen was probably the best version of what I think was written, more or less. There are definitely some things, even with like the villain, you know, that especially because we've waited so many years for certain elements of this story to kind of be wrapped up, to be touched on, discussed, all that stuff. You know, so like things like the leader, I would have wanted more from that character. I would have wanted a little bit more insight into who that character is, a little bit more depth. It felt surface level a lot of the time, but I think like the big picture stuff works for me. And I think a lot of the action sequences were actually really, really fun too. The entire sequence over the Indian Ocean with Tiamat, I thought all that stuff looked really great. Yes, there are some flaws in the visual effects that if you're sitting there and that's all you're looking for the whole movie, they're easy to spot. But if you're just letting the movie just kind of wash over you and you're just absorbing the film, most of that stuff you're not going to notice unless it's blatantly obvious it's something that they did at the 11th hour that, you know, that's just how it turned out, and that is what it is. But yeah, and I think overall, a lot of the performances I thought were also really good.
Yeah.
I think we can talk about the Anthony Mackie of it eventually, of like, did it feel like they didn't know exactly how to write for him? What were the strengths that he brought? What were the strengths that maybe he couldn't bring because the script just didn't have it there for him? Because I think generally speaking, we think of Anthony Mackie, we think of someone who's got a lot of pep in his step. He's very energetic. We see all the red carpet footage, all
so
that
funny.
stuff. Yeah. So incredibly funny and entertaining. And maybe the movie neutered that just a little bit and made him a little too serious. And I think that's the conversation about someone like Steve Rogers, who we kind of wanted the opposite, right? Like he was so serious and stoic, and we wanted him to kind of be loose and just have a good time. And I think there's parts in the movie where they let Anthony Mackie do that, especially in the beginning, and then it kind of gets lost a little bit throughout the sequences of the film.
But like Carl Lumbly.
Carl Lumbly is Carl Lumbly.
Danny Ramirez.
Danny Ramirez is great. Yeah,
Harrison
Ford's
Ford.
great.
Solid, all solid performances.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think overall, with again, sort of how the script was reworked all these multiple times, it's still a good movie. I still had fun. I was still entertained. And I was honestly, and I know we're going to talk about this in a little bit, I was so surprised to hear how many people said the movie was boring or the action didn't work for them and all that stuff.
We'll get into it. We'll get into it.
Don't get our boy started.
Yeah. I'm about to flip this table.
Oh, man. He's pissed. He's royally pissed.
Overall, it was pretty good.
Yeah. Augustine, what were your thoughts?
I thought the movie was good too.
Yeah.
I think I agree with you guys in the fact that I don't feel like this was the voice of Anthony Mackie. I feel like this movie was probably chopped up in post-production like crazy. And, you know, obviously there was issues. You guys mentioned a few of those issues. But I kind of have to just echo everything. I feel like his co-stars kind of outshined him, honestly, in the charming department. And so they had more memorable moments for me than Cap did. Like funny moments, like charming moments where they were just being themselves. Like there was just some really cool stuff there. And that's not even a dig at Anthony Mackie, because Anthony also had some really good moments in there too. And overall, adding the Red Hulk in there, I think, was the comic book element that we needed in this kind of movie. Just to remind us where we are in the MCU. And like, you know, it wasn't too die-hard espionage. But I think this movie was successful in really kind of reinforcing, obviously, that Sam Wilson is Cap. He is Cap. There was no question whatsoever. And I think it was successful in that because that's what this character needed. And to go to your guys' point where Anthony Mackie was stoic, the way I read that stoicness is he felt the weight of the world on his shoulder. Right. And he didn't have Cap. Like, well, not Cap. He didn't have Steve Rogers to like back him up or guide him. Right. And so
he's really on his own.
He's on his own. And
no Steve, no Buck, no other Avengers.
I know when shit goes bad for me, I'm not so happy and cheery all the time.
Mhm.
Like it's, you know, it's hard to be that. And also comparing Sam Wilson to Steve is also really unfair. Not because they're both Cap, but because we need to evaluate them on their own individual merit as people, like as people in the MCU, right? Just because Steve Rogers was a little bit naive, he didn't get the jokes because he was stuck in time and all that stuff. That was him. Sam Wilson is a black man in America these days. Like he's lived a whole different life. Yeah. We don't have to compare these two men whatsoever because they are their own individual person. And so I feel like a little bit of the backlash is coming from the great performance that Chris Evans gave us.
Yeah, and
like,
that story.
Yeah, it's great. It's fine. Honestly, for me, Chris Evans is just fine as Cap too. Like he's fine. He's a cool guy. I feel like a lot of the people who saw Chris Evans as Cap didn't see Chris Evans in the whipped cream bikini or Chris Evans as Johnny Storm.
Right.
Yep.
And like that was all we saw. And Chris Evans in what's it called? Snowpiercer was good, but that's actually a good performance.
That's a good one.
Scott Pilgrim. That's what I was thinking of. He's so silly and goofy in that movie.
That's actually hilarious.
That's that when I saw Chris Evans first time as Cap, I was like, he's a silly actor.
I know.
He's just a silly dude. And what's he doing in here?
That's why those moments of like, this is another reason I love that they decided to have Mackie take on the mantle of Captain America because Evans is also such a funny guy.
Yeah, he is.
Like I think Anthony Mackie has a lot of those same abilities.
I agree.
That like the few moments in these films where Steve Rogers got to be funny, you know, like I can do this all day. Yeah, I know. Like those kinds of moments in Endgame.
Yeah.
That is
like
America's ass.
All that stuff. It's funny. And he makes it work. He's a fun guy. But this is a whole different man. And audiences don't like change. Whatever. Get over it. Comics change. This is new. This is what's happening.
You know what else I love that you're reminding me of? And I think we can kind of segue into the spoiler chat. Sorry, producer Alex. Sorry.
wait. We got to like make a clip. Adam, give us a little clap. This is spoilers.
Let's go to spoiler territory right now. And then, we'll tell you guys when we dip out.
Yeah.
So spoilers.
Also for the audio people, they can't see us. So.
Yes. So spoilers starting now. I don't know how we can signal to them to come back. I guess. Oh, is that what it is? So when you make that noise again, there we go. Then they'll know that it's they can come back. But the other thing I love about these two characters, if we are talking about their similarities and differences, Sam Wilson is also a counselor.
Yes.
And people were talking about this film with like, the way that he resolves the problem at the end was like, a little eye rolling, a little cheesy, a little corny, a little after school special. My guy, Sam is a counselor. That is what he actually can do. Yeah. So when the way he's able to, he didn't say sun's getting real low,
de-escalate
but the
situation.
way he can, it's literally kind of his superpower.
De-escalating.
You know, and I think that it reminds me of, well, it's brought up in this article that I sent to Adam that was written by writer Richard Newby, who sort of talks about some of the response to this movie where people are like, it should have gone harder. It should have been this writer, Richard Newby, he sort of is talking about this film as though people wanted Sam Wilson as a fictional character to take on Red Hulk as a fictional character, where Hulk was sort of a stand-in for Trump. And he's sort of talking about like, now we want the fictional black man to sort of rescue us from this horrible situation we're in. And Richard's stance, and go read the article. I don't mean to paraphrase. I don't mean to sort of like actually speak on his behalf. I'm not. But it was a very well-written article, and it really points out a lot of great things that I think I was thinking about and sort of processing, where it's like, we're saying, it's like, yeah, we wouldn't have put this kind of pressure on Steve Rogers.
We didn't put that kind of pressure on Steve Rogers.
His third Captain America movie came out right at the beginning of the first Trump presidency. And it wasn't, we have to substitute Zemo for Trump. And we have to, like take on these challenges and sort of fight this level of fascism and what's happening with a really strong, and I think Richard's stance in the article is something along the lines of, well, even in the real world, we expected black people to save us, and we tried, and that didn't happen. And now, even in the fictional world, you're expecting, again, black Americans to come and sort of make you feel better about this whole thing. And he was sort of like, you're on your own. Like, and I love that. I'm like, yeah, that's accurate. That's accurate. But he also talks about the issues that the movie has, but he says that at the end, and he brings up this point too. This movie was being conceived, written, filmed way before Trump won his second election in 2024. They could not have necessarily predicted that. The timing of this is all weird, that this movie's coming out in the year 2025.
Yeah.
And the movie opens with like, 8 months ago or 5 months ago, a presidential election happened.
Right.
So it's all feeling like it's trying to kind of dip its toes into the politics of
PTSD going on
a little bit. But yeah, Richard just keeps bringing up, we didn't put that kind of pressure on Steve as a fictional character.
No.
And what we would allow him to do for us, we should also just give the same opportunities to Sam Wilson as a fictional character.
Yep.
But yeah, I want to get into some of the specific spoilers for me. I really enjoyed the Red Hulk stuff.
Yeah.
And I think that that if you go back and you look at like the trailers, it is a bit of a bummer that we all knew Red Hulk was coming. Because when you watch the movie, it does feel like we don't know what's happening. But us in the theater, we're just like, when's he going to turn into the Red Hulk?
Yeah.
And that was a bit of
We're
tension.
an hour and 20 into this
and
motherfucker.
a
What's
little bit
happening?
fun. But like I was telling Adam before we started rolling, I'm like, but just imagine in like 4 or 5 years, 10 years from now, little kids are going to be watching these movies. Maybe parents, people are going to be showing them to the kids for the first time. And kids are not going to see a trailer for this before they just hit play.
Yeah.
And, an hour or whatever into it, that Harrison Ford starts turning into the Hulk.
Yeah.
It's awesome. It's
Yeah.
a great moment. It's a great reveal.
Yep.
He calms himself back down,
Yep.
and then he eventually goes full bore. But like that kind of stuff we have to take all of that into account. That the marketing is something that's also hit over the head with us, but we didn't see the marketing for Samuel Stearns, the leader. And I did feel like while watching the movie that his entire design was redone, that he was almost green screen, like replaced, like because, and I don't know how accurate this is, there was a supposed leaked image of the leader, the concept art,
Got like a
where he had a
mustache.
smooth big forehead. Because there's kind of two versions of this character in Marvel Comics. There's he just has an elongated head,
Yeah,
but
I've
like
seen
he
that
still
one.
has like hair on top of his head.
Like a
and
nice, it's nice too.
It's like a nice,
that dude
yeah.
he put suavecito in it.
He
He's like,
does, but it's just like up here, which is a little goofy looking.
Yeah.
And then there's the version that they sort of started doing with the leader maybe about 20 years ago, like in the 90s into the 2000s, where it's like
a little pimply?
big brain, a big cranium.
Okay.
The way that Hulk has muscles, they're like, let's actually just make his brain look big and like very like a horror movie. And I don't know if they went with one and then changed their mind in post, because it does feel like that a little bit. So those kinds of things where I'm like, I just wish that the sort of I don't know, I guess design choices were maybe immediately a little bit stronger to begin with. I also caught another thing that people were criticizing in one of the trailers when Sam lands as the Falcon and his ankle looks like it's kind of bent. In that thing, people were like, going Mach 5, he would have broke his ankle.
He would have turned to putty.
In the movie, they like fix it so his ankle doesn't do that. I'm like,
okay.
They probably saw this, and in the past month or two, just
did a
in post, just
did a little
for
ankle
that quick
adjustment.
little
Yeah.
shot, little ankle adjustment. So anyway, that's how these movies work. The other big spoiler thing that I want to bring up that I loved, well, first of all, any scene with Isaiah Bradley. Carl Lumbly.
Oh, yeah.
Like
Carl Lumley's great.
The scene where he's in custody and he's talking to Sam, I was
Yeah.
like almost getting emotional. Just beautiful.
We're just trying to
Great
figure
stuff.
out his phone, like the whole deal,
Yeah.
right?
Yes.
Like
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
charming, adorable. I love that.
My
It's
phone's
so
on the
good.
fritz.
Yeah.
It was really great.
He's like,
but
and then he goes, "You want me to make the text a little bit?"
Yeah.
Before? He's like, "Come on,
Messing
man,
with
that
him.
shit is hilarious."
because you mentioned your favorite Mackie moment was when they're in the limousine
In the
heading to the
limousine.
White
Yeah.
House.
Absolutely,
It's so good.
So charming.
so good.
So good. But my favorite in the theater was when Captain America is trying to stop these missiles and he like surfs one for a second.
Yeah.
That was rad. That was actually
Bro,
really rad.
I like fist pump. Like, yes, this movie is cheesy as hell,
Yeah.
but so good,
I
so
really
comic
like
booky,
that.
so
Yeah,
fun. So that's kind of where I stand on this movie. I'm
Yeah.
like, if you enjoy something like that,
Yeah.
and you still can appreciate, yes, could this movie overall have been blacker, for lack of a better term? Absolutely. But I still, this is not dropping the same sort of lines as like, bury him in the ocean because it's better to have, the Killmonger line that
Right.
blew us away at the end of Black Panther. And audiences then in 2018 were like, I'm surprised Disney let this kind of stuff. You know what I mean?
100%,
Like all of that. It does not go to necessarily those places, but Sam throughout this movie is pissed at the position he's put in. He does not trust President Ross.
Right.
And some audience members are like, he's too trusting of him. And I'm like, no, he's not.
They're not on the same side.
He really has this, and again, this is coming from the Richard Newby article, which I thought was fantastic, and I can't speak to, but I think I could feel some of that in the film. The perspective of like being a Black American, but also having some sort of armed services in your history to fight for your country, but knowing the country was built on racism, and you know what I'm saying? I'm like,
Yeah.
there's
Knowing what happened to Isaiah Bradley.
Right.
Isaiah Bradley. There's a fine line between why would Isaiah Bradley go to the White House after everything he's been through, but there's still an element of, but he can still be proud of his service. He can still be,
Yeah.
So I felt like some of that stuff was in the movie, and I really appreciated it. Would I have loved more? Absolutely. You know, would I have would I have liked more Giancarlo?
Yeah.
We talked about this for sure.
Yeah, I feel like to me that's
It's the beginning.
To me that's the biggest travesty of the movie.
Sure.
Like I really wanted. I hate to say it, but I feel like he was wasted on this character.
Well, because he was, but I mean, potentially, you would like to have seen Giancarlo as Magneto or Professor X.
Yeah,
Or
like
you know.
he's such an amazing actor in person.
Yep.
And man of color that like he should be in one of those leader positions.
For sure.
Right. Like I feel that should have been
The
him.
leader of the Serpent Society, you're like, what?
I know, and again, it always even before they did reshoots and brought him in, it felt like, oh, the Serpent Society is something that Captain America kind of has to deal with, but then the real big threat of this movie is Hulk. The real big threat is President Ross and the leader, which makes sense. But it is like, okay, now you got Giancarlo, you better build up this character and this group of villains, whoever they are. Bring back Rosa Salazar, bring back Seth Rollins, who also played a character in the Serpent Society, but then was cut. In the next movie or in the next time they appear, you better make them like deadly, cool, a threat, you know, and have Giancarlo really go there so that when Sam Wilson has to step up to take them on, we're like, dude, Sam's going to get his good luck. He's going to get his ass kicked, but then we're rooting for him. And then, you know, so, but it did feel like this is just the beginning, planting seeds.
I hope so.
But I don't disagree with you that I'm like, yeah, I probably would have given him, you know what I feel, you know what's funny? He announced this at Comic-Con, Giancarlo, when they brought him out.
We were there.
And the way he said his character's name, I feel like Giancarlo was lied to. Like somebody told him,
I think you're 100%
Giancarlo,
right.
this is a big character. This is because he was like Sidewinder, and the audience was like, cool. We don't know him.
We cheered by default, you guys, because he said something.
The leader of the
But
Serpent
he did not say like Magneto. He didn't say a character that everyone was like, oh my God, we know him.
I would have lost my shit.
He said Sidewinder. So I'm like, Marvel, they did a good job pitching this to him. They must have sent him some images like, look at him. Look at Sidewinder.
Look at this guy.
Look at the potentiality.
He's a big deal.
Look at this
Okay. All right. So, but hopefully he gets to come back and do that. So those are some of my spoiler thoughts on the movie. I'm still excited. I haven't seen it in 3D. I'm still excited. I'm going to go tonight,
did see
actually.
it in 3D.
How was it?
The 3D was fantastic.
Really?
Oh,
The
cool.
flying
3D,
stuff.
Yeah,
Come
the flying
on,
stuff
man.
was great. I would say it wasn't too depthy. It wasn't like they didn't really push the envelope, but for the most part, it was very comfortable to watch.
You know why?
Cool.
Because they didn't have time to clean it up.
Exactly.
Probably not.
It was very comfortable to watch,
Okay.
which was great. A lot of the stuff where Isaiah shoots at the president was really cool because there's a lot of like glass.
everywhere.
Yeah.
The flying stuff was actually really cool. Seeing the Hulk in 3D, the Red Hulk in 3D was actually pretty rad.
You know, can I say something that made me think of you? Because we didn't get to see the movie together. So Red Hulk fight is maybe my favorite comic book part of the movie.
Yeah.
And I want to say, spoiler talk, but like you can kind of tell from the trailers, I thought some of those effect shots were very good. I was like, they're spending more money on this sequence than probably other sequences.
Yeah.
But as he's tearing through like the trees of Washington, D.C., and like Sam Wilson's like barely ducking and dodging him and barely surviving, I kept thinking, yo, we're overdue for like a rampaging Hulk.
Yeah.
And I thought of you and I was
of
like,
course.
Augustine's right. We need Bruce Banner to get back to this level.
Yeah.
And I think it could still, because again, they're setting up Hulk characters,
Yes,
right?
they are.
We got Betty back in the mix. We got Leader. We got Red Hulk. I'm like, dude, we have She-Hulk. Apparently, rumors were that Amadeus Cho was going to appear in this film as Amadeus Cho. He eventually
interesting.
becomes the totally awesome Hulk.
Yeah.
There's never been a better time for them to announce World War Hulk, or you know what I mean, or something
along the lines.
But like, dude, I want to see what we saw, but with Bruce Banner Hulk tearing through the Canadian wilderness, getting at a Wolverine. That's what I want to see. So it made me think of you. I was like, yeah, I missed this. This is fun.
Yeah, I mean, we need a lot more Hulk action. Hulk's
For sure.
another one of my favorite characters. But yeah, so another thing about this Red Hulk, Adam, we haven't even heard your thoughts. Your no spoiler thoughts.
Go
yet.
ahead.
Yeah, we can
Say
go.
what
You
you're
go.
gonna
The
say.
thing about this, I really kind of, so Red Hulk for a lot of people isn't the same as the Green Hulk when he first shows up. Red Hulk can talk. He's fully,
That's
he's
true.
like fully intelligent. Like he's not,
That's true.
He's not a raging monster per se. He knows that he's fucking sinister. And he has this like devilish grin that he does. Like he's got this really sinister smile. And so I wish they had played a little bit more into that because I think that's what really kind of sets them apart. It was cool that he had like the heat coming off of him and he like burned things as he touched them, and that was all right. But I do feel like that the personality of Hulk, or Red Hulk, that's where they really kind of should have separated the two, because this dude does not have good intentions most of the time.
Yeah.
I'm hoping, based off of what the established lore of this franchise is so far, the sort of Edward Norton, Bruce Banner Hulk was kind of mindless. And then when Mark Ruffalo kept playing him, by the time we got to Thor Ragnarok, he was speaking a little bit because he had been Hulk for 2 years. She-Hulk, in her first time that she transformed, was mindless, but then pretty soon after, like sort of controlled
immediately.
The next time we see Red Hulk, and I do hope we get to see him again, he might be exactly what you just described, which would be so great to have a Bruce Banner smart Hulk, Professor Hulk, talk to the Harrison Ford, like Thaddeus Ross Hulk, and they could have a conversation. Would be awesome. Hopefully we can kind of get to see some of that. I think that'd be great. Adam, spoiler thoughts.
Well, just talking about Hulk, you know, I've been rewatching clips from the Incredible Hulk and from Avengers and stuff. I think that's the thing I really miss about that character. I love seeing him jump from building to building, tearing shit apart.
Dude.
The powers. And seeing Red Hulk really kind of like reaffirm those thoughts even more so because it was fun to just watch him grab Captain America, go through the White House, and then like toss him like a rag.
The Ang Lee style jumps, dude. Like that was rad.
I loved that. So yeah, I would love to see more of that come back into the MCU, especially now having 3, well, potentially 4, because Hulk also has his son.
That's true.
You know,
Scar.
Yeah.
Plus Abomination is like still alive.
Abomination's still around.
So there's just we've built out so much Hulk lore in the last 20 years, and now we've basically made something that is like a spiritual sequel to the Incredible Hulk. 100%. It didn't have Bruce Banner in it, which 100%. I thought was fine.
Yeah.
But I like that all this stuff is in play because I the destructive parts of the movie, seeing those characters go at it was so fun. And it was cool to watch them try to take down the missiles and stop the war or stop the battle in the Indian Ocean. But seeing 2 characters go head to head, especially when, yes, Sam and Ross didn't see eye to eye on everything, but there were little glimmers of hope, moments where even I started to question, well, maybe Ross is trying to change. Maybe he is wanting to do the right thing. But then, you know, you see how he's been working with the leader and you're like, okay, there's still something about him that's not fully there, even though, spoiler, we know he's dying.
Right.
So it's a really complicated motivation, but there is motivation behind it.
Yeah.
So I wish that the movie kind of had the more depth to go into those things because I feel like it touches those things on the surface and they're kind of predictable. You know, as soon as he starts interrogating Ross basically about why he was working with the leader. I almost immediately was like, something happened to him. They're going to play it up that maybe he was sick or, you know, something. And sure enough, he had heart issues. So I think that's the thing that really lacked for me was just having the depth, because I think on the surface it is a really fun movie. The people who said that it's boring, I don't agree with that.
Are we getting into it?
Not yet. One more thing before we get into the boring talk.
Go ahead.
I want to know your guys' thoughts on the CG Betty.
She was Betty? She was CG?
Yeah.
At the end? What are you talking about? Betty Ross?
Yeah.
Was she? So
are you sure?
Yeah.
Here's the thing. I couldn't
It
figure
looked CG, dude.
Oh, okay.
Prove me wrong. Prove me wrong that it wasn't CG.
I was thinking it was either because she was composited in or she was de-aged.
Yeah. But why would she be?
I don't know.
There's no
but
reason
there was
for her
something
to be
about
de-aged.
it that looked a little off.
I'm like 90% sure it was
I'm
CG,
scared
dude.
to walk into this,
Liv Tyler was at the
this
premiere.
conversation.
Was she?
She was.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So
I don't
then
know.
I'm wrong because when that
something
popped up,
did look off about
the fact that they didn't really, because a person like Liv, you show her face. Like she is a
also
face
she looks exactly
actor.
the same like she's looked for 20 years.
Right. She's a face, and you highlight the fact that she's in this movie.
Sure.
All of these shots were her shots were from behind the jail cell.
A lot of them, yeah.
Well, just mainly the one that they held on for a long time, right? It was from behind, a little obscure. I was just like, this feels CG to me. I'm not sure I believe this 100%, but I'm glad she's in the movie. But I didn't feel right.
I felt the same thing with anything that Samuel Stearns, the leader, was in. Tim Blake Nelson.
Yeah.
Where I'm like, it did feel like they CG'd his entire look and kind of replaced him in a way
with whatever could have been there before.
Whatever could have been. So yeah, in that regard, I wish that the movie felt more like, hey, these actors are here together in this scene. Did it take me out of the story? Not necessarily.
Not really,
I was still in it. I was still engaged.
I think that
stuff,
just goes back to seeing the 11th hour changes.
It sucks. And it sucks too when you're a fan of this franchise and then you just see all the internet punditry talking about like, this is how all Marvel movies are made. They're just all made by committee and they're all made in post and they can never, and I go, yeah, man, well, actors have schedules. I don't know what to tell you.
Yeah.
I don't know. Like maybe there was really
also,
something
that's not new.
Correct.
Right.
But the point is that when you can really see the seams
Yeah.
of computer generated imagery, when you can see the seams of actors not being in the exact same, like even with Giancarlo, he didn't have a ton of scenes where like it required so many of the actors to be present with him. It was really just Mackie
him and
other sort of extras that were like the various bad guys that he was surrounded with, or the hostages that he was trying to threaten, whatever it was.
Yeah.
So yes, I would have loved it if it all felt like, hey, we shot it all in the day. All the actors are here. Yes, I love that stuff. It is difficult to then defend the Marvel franchise when again, all of the internet pundits can just talk about like, well, see, there's your example. All these movies are made like this and they're all shitty.
And they're all bad.
I'm like, well, no,
Okay,
not necessarily.
final thoughts. Where does this lie on your Letterboxd reviews?
I think it's 25th on mine.
20th.
20th.
Out of like 40 Marvel movies.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know.
What about in the Cap series?
Because I gave it a 3.5 out
Okay.
of 5.
Yeah, I haven't.
Which in my letterbox rating, I don't go by. It's not like 60%. 3 out of 5 to me is good.
Yeah.
Okay.
I gave it 4 stars out of 5, knowing it's probably realistically a 2 or 3 star movie. But I am a mark, dude. I like these characters, and I loved any scene with Isaiah Bradley, and I loved any scene with Red Hulk. So I was like, this is a 4-star movie for me.
Okay,
But where does it
okay.
rank in my Cap movies?
Yeah.
I probably think the other 3 Cap movies are overall stronger. However, I think I enjoyed this more than the TV show The Falcon and the Winter Soldier, which I consider an entry in the Cap franchise, because that show ends with Captain America and the Winter Soldier. So that's a Captain America show.
It's all about him becoming Captain America.
Exactly. So it's somewhere in there. And yeah, ultimately, I do wish that this movie was stronger, was more undeniably good, so that we could have the debate of what's better, this or Winter Soldier? Oh man, I don't know. They're so different. But I don't think that debate really is there. Winter Soldier's probably still the best one.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what everybody was comparing the movie to.
But that's
right?
fine. And I like Civil War more than Winter Soldier just because we get Spider-Man and Black Panther, baby. Sorry, dude, I'm a mark. I don't know what to tell you.
Undeniably good movies.
That's it. Okay.
I will say, for me, this movie was better than Cap 1.
There you go.
I think this movie was better than Cap 1. The choreography was better. The things they had Anthony Mackie do was better.
Yep.
The fight scenes were way better than anything in Cap 1. Sure, we had established Cap 1 there, but like I feel this movie was more engaging than Cap 1.
Can I say something that I think this movie also lacks that I wish had is some sort of a romance for Sam Wilson?
Right.
Because the Cap movies all had this.
What, the bromance wasn't good enough for you?
The bromance was amazing. Don't get me wrong.
Great.
But like Cap,
again, more depth.
Yes, Cap had Bucky, but I think that first Captain America movie's strong point really is him and Peggy Carter.
It is.
Okay.
And I would have loved, frankly, I'm going to go off of the comic books here. Sam Wilson and Misty Knight are a great couple. And I'm the guy going, bring back that actress who played her in the Luke Cage show.
Yeah.
Bring back Misty Knight and incorporate her into the MCU at this level. I would love that. But stuff like that I think would have been, helped to just make it overall.
I had
good.
a date always gets me.
Dude, because it's the best.
Yeah.
It's the best. Anyways, gentlemen.
Let's talk about this. Let's talk about this boring ass movie. Apparently,
why? First of all, do we think that the internet is being too harsh on this movie?
Absolutely.
Okay,
man. That's what I'm so mad about.
I do think that I do think that most of the criticisms I've seen are valid. We've talked about all of them tonight. We've talked about them, but I do feel like there is an unfair setting up. I think it's partly because the Infinity War Endgame combo was like a showstopper. That thing, those two movies are so damn fun and so good and so emotional, but they have so much building up to it and so much to pay off that I think that those films have trained audiences to go, if it's not at this level, it ain't worth it, baby.
That's such bullshit.
And I'm like, that's tough, man.
I think you're right. And then also what I brought up while we were outside, I think it's the age demographic of the people who watch that there. The people who are so diehard about those movies are when they were young, impressionable moviegoers, right? We have people following
we had Back
us.
to the Future and Jurassic Park. They had the Marvel movies.
Exactly. Like we had those movies, right? And we will go back and defend those movies as bad or as good as they are. I fucking love American Ninja, the shitty Ninja series, and I'll defend that shit because it's American Ninja and I grew up on it, right? But like these kids are so spoiled that they got to see one of the greatest achievements in cinematic history. And that's their level. Like kids who grew up on this, who were like maybe tweens when like phase 4 or phase 5 started. And then suddenly like they're able to absorb and analyze movies and suddenly...
Well, they're like kids
Infinity
my
War
brother's
and
age.
Endgame.
My brother's a 2000. He's 20. He's gonna be 25.
Right.
He's like that
So,
perfect
like,
demographic.
They got to witness one of the greatest things we've ever seen. I've never screamed in a movie as much as I did
In Endgame.
as in Endgame.
Yeah.
Right? Like, that was incredible.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, though, that also skews your perspective of what movies are and what movies do.
Yeah.
People don't remember what it was like when Iron Man 1 came out, banger, and then people shit
Incredible
all
Hulk.
over Incredible Hulk.
Yeah.
And then fucking
Iron Man
Thor-
2,
Iron Man 2.
Thor 1, Cap 1, and it wasn't until the Avengers.
Dude,
Yeah.
Thor 2 is still one of the worst movies I've ever seen. Like, I don't understand how people can completely gloss over the fact that, like, yeah, these movies were not great, some of them when they came out.
Yeah.
We had bangers. I hate the fact that people are comparing A Brave New World to Civil War and to Winter Soldier,
Right.
only because those movies are exceptional. You don't compare it to Ant-Man.
Right.
You don't compare it to Ant-Man and the Wasp.
Right,
like, you're
right,
not
right.
comparing it to Iron Man 2 or 3.
And you're saying people are forgetting. It may be young people right now. If we can get real old and
They don't know shit is what
and-
I'm saying.
and-
They don't
and-
know shit.
and we can say get off our lawn here for a second, but you're saying like some of these younger audiences, they might be going to see this movie and they have forgotten
Yeah.
the audience and critical
Right,
reception
right.
'Cause they
to
were
some
babies.
of these phase
They
1
were
and
kids.
phase 2
Yeah.
MCU movies
Right.
where it's like everything really felt like it was firing on all cylinders in phase
Right.
3.
Right.
But some of these movies were kind of transitional movies. And, they had the sort of building blocks of stuff. And I remember when Thor the Dark World came out and everybody was crapping on it.
Dude,
And I
still crap on it.
I still was like, hey, there's good things about this movie.
Mhm.
None the least, which was Rene Russo,
Mhm.
who like was brought back in Endgame
Right,
to have one of the
exactly.
most wonderful emotional, like they time traveled back to Thor the Dark World. That's how confident Marvel Studios was. They're like, okay, you didn't like that movie? We're going back to it. We're going to
Yeah.
relive it.
Yep.
We're going to stew in it for a little bit and show you something really great.
Yeah.
And show you the Rene Russo, mother-son moment that we kind of didn't get to do before. And I feel like Captain America Brave New World should be afforded those same,
Yes.
you know what I mean? The same
Right.
opportunities, I guess.
Right.
You know?
But unfortunately, the general movie-going audience quickly forgets about all that stuff.
yeah.
Endgame and Infinity War were so good that, yes, it's easy to cloud your judgment about what movies should be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that can't be your only decision maker. Those audiences let me know that those are the only movies they
That they
ever
watch.
watch.
Yeah, yeah,
ever.
yeah.
I also
Just
I,
ever, yeah.
I feel similar to like when the Marvels came out and
Oh, I
people were
fucking love the
and people were
Marvels.
like it's a good time.
Yeah.
And they're like it's not the worst movie ever made, but some internet people and some fans were like this is the worst Marvel movie. And I'm like
Right.
this is not even the worst Marvel movie this year.
Right.
Like what are you like
Exactly.
You know, just and yes, it bothers me to see there was a comment when we posted just a quick out of the theater video when we were talking about Cap. When people were like, hey, is the ADR in this movie as bad as like Madam Web? I was like, nowhere near close. Like,
No.
Yes, it still frustrates me that Captain America Brave New World can have little shots and little moments where like a character clearly recorded a line, whether for clarity or just to kind of like try to nudge something and make it a little
Yeah.
smoother. I'm like, I also don't love that. I
Yeah.
wish that wasn't in there.
Yeah.
But to
that's
then-
movies, baby.
But to then
Yeah.
see people on the internet being like, Madam Web was more fun to watch. I'm like, you're being an asshole.
Yeah.
You're just
You're
going
psychotic.
You're going
being
out
a
of your
piece of
way.
shit. You
You're
really are being
like
a piece of
it's so dismissive of what
Yeah.
the good things in Brave New World are.
Yeah.
And I honestly, but this is just another thing where like I don't have patience for people who sort of revel in hate watching something.
Yeah.
You know, I'll give you Tommy Wiseau's The Room a little bit, but even then I can't just keep going to movies and people be like, this is going to be real bad. Like, I'm sorry, I'm rooting for these. I wanted Kraven the Hunter to be somewhat good.
You know what? We were pleasantly
Yes,
shocked by that movie.
Yeah, but
Send them the run.
I'm not like it's just like I don't like people that can see a bad movie like that with many decisions creatively made at many levels just not working. And
We
for
did,
them,
we did an
you know,
80-minute review of Batman versus Superman, not because we hated it, because we were so bummed
And
that
we were
it
trying
didn't
to
live up.
figure it out.
You know, and we were talking about why those decisions creatively didn't work for us, but just to kind of have the take of like, Cap 4 sucks. This new Cap movie.
Yeah.
Anyway, it's really frustrating, but
Yeah.
Yeah.
okay. Any other thoughts
think
on
it's
that?
just-
Well,
I think
yeah.
it's just a bad
well, and I
take,
think
Adam.
also, I
Yeah.
think also, it's kind of impossible to have the expectation that after a 10-year run of films, where the
Right.
last two
Right.
movies are meant to be the closing chapter of this giant saga, that every movie after that is going to be at that scale.
No.
Because once you tell that arc and it concludes,
Yeah.
you need to kind of restart.
Mhm.
You know, telling a new story, and
These
building a new arc.
motherfuckers don't know story structure. That's the problem. They don't know how to tell a story.
And
If
it's-
if it was up to all of these dudes, every movie would be all action all the time, and fuck, that's it.
Yeah.
That's it. They don't know story technique. They
What's
don't
that? What's that, producer Mark? Like, oh, coming in with some heat.
I know, right?
Whoa.
Like he said, like Wolverine and Deadpool. So all action all the time, just like eye candy. That's not how you tell a fucking story, and that's not how you build up another Infinity War. That's really not how you do it.
The other thing that's frustrating is I have felt like this is a criticism of me because I consider myself a part of this group. But comic book or superhero movie nerds that are on the internet, whether you're just a commenter on a YouTube video or you're like somebody like us where you have like a show and you're trying to put out some sort of content or whatever, we lack imagination. So it is frustrating to see people sit through Phase 4 movies and go, why did they introduce all these characters? We just like those other characters. Why are you teaching me new characters? And they do not have the imagination to go, yeah, but you understand that people felt that same way about Ant-Man 1.
Yeah.
Or
remember
Doctor
I was calling
Strange,
it Marvel's first flop.
Or Guardians of the Galaxy was if you ask people on paper, hey, are you interested in this? They're going to say no one asked for this. But it wasn't until these characters and these storylines started to interweave together in movies like the Avengers movies that you go, oh, how fun is it that they set all this stuff up and now they're paying it off. And it frustrates me to see that comic book fans will lack the imagination of, yes, but you don't know what it's going to be like when some of these characters who you've seen in the movies of the past couple of years that they're building up in Phase 4, trying to introduce you to these characters, are then going to come in an ensemble piece and, provide their contribution, and it's going to be awesome and fast-paced and fun. And think about the stuff that maybe there were characters that you didn't love as much on their own. And I'll give you the example, Doctor Strange. I know a lot of people that were like, that first movie's okay, the sort of solo Doctor Strange movie. But when he pops up in Thor for like 30 minutes or just a quick, whatever that sequence was, they're like, this guy's a really fun character. When he pops up in Infinity War,
dude, he was like the stand-up.
And he's telling Tony Stark to his face, like, hitherto unknown, damage is going to happen to our universe. And he's like, did you just say hitherto? Like, when you get that interaction, you go, oh, comic book fans didn't have the imagination.
Dude.
They didn't have the foresight to see what some of this dynamic could lead to.
Yeah.
And it's frustrating to know that it's all just always about what's right in front of you, and it's never about what could come.
It's just the long game, right? It's like we were talking about last week with Fantastic Four. We also need to think about the exit strategy of the Fantastic Four at this point. As much as we love to see new characters introduced, what's their arc and how are they going to eventually end this run? Because it will end at some point, right? It's not going to have an infinity time. We're not going to CG faces forever. Like, it's not
unless you're Star Wars.
Oh shit! Oh shit! Oh shit! Are we getting into it? Are we getting into it?
In which case, maybe don't.
Well, and the other thing too that I was going to say is
think about it.
My mind just went
think
blank.
about it.
My mind went completely blank. Oh, just to kind of play devil's advocate really quick. If your complaint is or your concern is that the buildup of the Infinity Saga leading into Doomsday and Secret Wars feels really just all over the place, it has been, and they're trying. I think that they are trying their best given the circumstances to try to make it all work together. But also, there's a lot of Phase 1, 2, and 3 that was also kind of like smashed together to kind of make it work.
They didn't think about Thanos being in shit like until last minute.
Yeah,
they're like,
correct.
wouldn't this be a cool place to add Thanos?
Guardians 1,
Yes.
I don't think there was actually a plan.
Have you seen Thanos' face change over
Yes,
time? Like,
of
they
course.
didn't know shit about shit early on, and they were just hoping
And
it would work.
I think
And I mean, we're also talking about a movie that barely picked up a story thread that they set up in the year 2008.
Dude, that's crazy.
With Samuel Stearns, the leader, and Thaddeus Ross kind of turning into the Red Hulk, and Betty Ross coming back. These are characters that were first introduced in that movie in 2008, and they never showed up again in Phase 1.
17 years.
They never showed up again in Phase 2. Ross came back in Phase 3 as sort of a little cameo, and they started bringing back actor William Hurt. So it takes up. And I'm not trying to give them a complete,
pass.
They should have set up more stuff that they're going to pay off sooner, like Shang-Chi or Hercules at the end of Thor: Love and Thunder. Or Star Fox, Eros at the end of Eternals. I get it. I also would not have made the sort of post-credits teases that they have been making the past couple of years.
They are eating their own tail a little bit.
I would have skipped Harry Styles for sure. I would have skipped Hercules. For sure would have skipped that.
Yeah.
And I don't want to make it sound like Marvel has been perfect and impervious to anything that they've done. There's been real turds that happen. There's been some real bad moments in these movies. But at the same time, I think people look at the past with rose-colored glasses, and now these newer movies are suffering for it. Like, I love the movie The Marvels. I thought it was fantastic. Kamala Khan was the shining star in that movie, and people shit all over it. Which
it's
fucking sucks.
a lighter tone, and it's
Yeah.
probably geared towards a younger audience
Yeah.
and a woman audience,
Right.
and that's great. And instead, you've got 35-year-old guys complaining it's not for them,
Yeah.
and you look, oh, come on, man.
Duh, it's
Come
not for you.
Come on,
idiot.
Thunderbolts is for you. Shut up. Go
Yeah.
see Thunderbolts.
Go watch Iron Man 1 again. Get
There
out
you
of
go.
here.
Yeah.
I want to get into some comments from our Discord about Captain America specifically. Ben comments, I hope that while Cap is restarting the Avengers, Isaiah Bradley becomes an emotional center to the team, kind of like a mentor at Avengers HQ. Really looking forward to Sam Wilson leading this team. Gracias, homies.
I think that's a great idea.
I'm into that.
Yeah, I need more
I'm into
Isaiah
that.
Bradley in the
Yeah.
MCU.
Yeah.
I agree.
Even
I
if
think
he's
that'd be
just
great.
there to be a mentor role for Sam, for the
Yeah.
Avengers, whoever.
Yeah.
I need him more.
I think he could be a Batman Beyond Bruce Wayne type character.
Ooh.
Oh,
He's
that
like,
would be cool.
he's the guy that trains the Avengers.
Yeah,
and-
dude, a Wildcat
The
type
training
character.
sequence with
That'd be great.
him
That was really
and
fun.
the guys was great.
He
Yeah.
knows how to fight, dude. He's
Yeah.
gonna teach basic brawling
Yeah.
to these
Mhm.
characters.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Nurhadi Roshaimi says, I'd like to see Sam and Joaquin in cameo appearances across the MCU, TV series, and making their presence known to the rest of the world that even though Steve isn't around anymore, what he stood for and fought for still remains and will continue to inspire new, current, and new unknown heroes across the globe. If anything, that post-credit scene in Brave New World tells, it's that Sam's gears in his head are already turning and anticipating future events so as to not repeat the failures and underestimation of Infinity War.
Yeah, well, Sam also has a tougher job than Steve in that Steve didn't have to assemble the Avengers.
They were already
Nick
assembled.
Fury did it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true.
Sam Wilson now has
That's
to do
true.
it, and like you're saying, Sam's not Nick Fury.
Yeah,
He's
yeah,
not
yeah.
Steve Rogers.
Yeah.
He was a counselor.
Yeah.
who took on the mantle, and now he has to kind of figure out like, what is my place in all this?
I love it.
How will I be the leader that I need to be? How do I differentiate myself from Steve and Nick Fury and Iron Man and all these other heroes? So it's a little more complex sometimes.
Yeah. Tarantia/Roy says, I thought Sam and Bucky were going to be at a funeral of old Steve Rogers who gave him the shield. Like Steve went to Peggy's funeral.
Mhm.
There was even funeral footage in the trailer, right? So what is the
was.
reason they want to keep old Steve alive?
Why do they want to keep old Steve alive? That's a really good question. I feel
know.
like there's going to be a really poignant moment.
I know why.
Why?
Well, because I think that they haven't fully committed
Hector
to it
asked
yet.
this just so we can
No,
answer it.
I was like, let's
He's
bring
tooting his
this
own
up.
horn again.
Hector's
Well,
like,
because
I'm gonna
there's-
school these motherfuckers.
There's a couple of things. First of all, yeah, is there stuff in the trailers that didn't show up in the final
I
movie?
think it's
Yes.
Ross's death.
Oh,
Interesting.
do you think that was a version of the movie?
I think so.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Could have been. I don't know. Like, did they
It
figure
looks like it's someone very politically important.
did they figure
okay.
it was like also Harrison Ford's a one and done? They're like, that's it. We just
Maybe.
have
Yeah.
to. But
I
I'm
mean-
like, you better keep him alive because I want to see Red Hulk fight Green Hulk and Blue
Okay.
Hulk and
Okay.
Purple Hulk. So, but it brings up the thing of like, there's stuff in the trailers that wasn't in the final movie. I love the line, "You're not Steve Rogers," and then Sam Wilson going, "No, I'm not," and that wasn't in the movie.
Yeah,
that was- I was
love
waiting for that. I was
Me
I was
too.
hoping
me
for that
too.
one.
Me
He
too.
stays kind of quiet during that
So
moment.
that's why I brought up that comment. But also, yes, I'm going to school these motherfuckers. You ready for this? Here's why.
Hit us.
Here's why.
This is why you're here, Hector.
Here's why. He's not on the moon. He's not in some little joke from Falcon and the Winter Soldier. Steve Rogers, Chris Evans, Captain America went back to his other universe where he retired in. I don't think these movies have fully committed to it yet. But one of two things is going to happen when Chris Evans, the actor, comes back in one of the future Avengers movies, in one of the upcoming movies. He's either going to play the same character he did, but just like still at his age and not the old man Steve, which is kind of fun because then that means that whatever after this adventure occurs, you can go back and watch Endgame and go, that Steve Rogers went through everything we just watched.
Yeah.
How fun. And he knows, when he gives the shield to Sam, it's like, it's yours. Because a young Steve Rogers popped back up and saw that Sam Wilson was Cap and goes, oh, it's yours.
Yeah.
Like it's a fun little
You
time
did
loop.
it. Yeah.
So he's either going to play his same Steve. And if he does, well, two things. Either that or he's going to play his same Steve or not his same Steve, meaning a variant, a multiversal variant. Maybe he's a Hydra Captain America. Maybe it doesn't matter. The point is that I don't think Marvel has officially confirmed this, but when he goes back in time to stay with Peggy, I think it creates a branch universe.
Most
I think so,
likely.
too.
Most likely,
I think
because
he fully affects the future of that.
Yeah,
universe.
that's what I'm
absolutely.
saying. So the reason that we didn't have a funeral in this universe is because 99-year-old Steve Rogers or 120-year-old Steve
120,
Rogers
I think, yeah.
went back to his reality where he retired in and then got to live there and then probably had his funeral there, maybe surrounded by his family, his friends from that universe, whatever the heck. So I think this little popover was just I need to give the shield to Sam before I die, which is a really great, poignant, beautiful scene. I love that moment. So that's why I think that's why I think these movies or the TV show The Falcon and Winter Soldier did not have like a Steve Rogers funeral, because that dude left. He's gone. That's
That's a good theory.
Yeah, that's what I think.
Oh man.
Yeah.
We did it.
It's just been really frustrating to be on the internet for the last week and seeing people talk about the movie, because I've seen every spectrum of opinion about the film. But I think,
be fair, I have seen a lot of people say it's good. It's a good time. It's fun.
Too.
You know what? That has been encouraging.
Yeah.
In most comment sections that I've jumped into, most people have been like, guys, it's not that bad. It's not that it was a fun time. Go watch this movie.
Yeah, for sure.
I will say I had a very unique experience with one of our fans, Chris Hardy. He sent me a video of his son watching Endgame for the first time, and the portal scene was happening. Kid was so hyped.
Dude.
Kid was so hyped.
Dude.
But I want to see his opinion on the MCU as not us. Like, as he gets older, like, what is he going to feel about it? Because he's going to have a completely different experience. He didn't watch Endgame in a theater with people screaming and shouting. He saw it at home with his dad. It's going to be like listening to Fleetwood Mac or something for him, right? It's just going to be like, I had a great time watching the MCU with my pops. It wasn't like, whatever experience we had. So
until Doomsday comes out, until Secret Wars comes out.
Right? And then is that going to be his version of Endgame and Infinity War and all that stuff, right? And also, when I was watching Brave New World, I was watching it in front of a family that had a young kid behind them. And listening to him ask questions about what was going on the screen, I'm like, this is fantastic. He kind of doesn't know what's going on.
Yeah.
He kept asking, like, what's that? Why'd that happen?
Yeah.
Oh, he got blowed up? Oh my God. Like, he didn't really kind of understand. And his parents were explaining it to him in the most simple way possible, right? They're just like, he got too close to the bomb. And that was it. Like, he just got too close.
That's
right?
it.
Yeah.
And so these experiences that like kind of, I wouldn't say humble me, but kind of like kick me into the direction of like, don't be this guy. Don't be like, well, actually,
Sure.
and you know, in Cap 1, they did this. And I'm like, just enjoy these damn movies.
Yeah.
Like, these movies are superhero, big, bombastic action movies, and kind of give them the benefit of the doubt that like you're gonna go in and have an experience. Obviously, if it's a shit experience, call it a shit experience, but don't like bring all of your baggage. These children did not bring any of their baggage. They're just like, I'm enjoying it for what it is at this point. And I wish more people would kind of have that experience even going into movies, because I feel like movies in general would be better if more people were more willing to kind of just give it a shot.
Do you think that the negative algorithm of the internet of the past 10 years has sort of crept into regular movie-going audiences' brains and has affected how we watch
Not
movies?
even 10 years.
100%.
Let's
5
just
years.
say it. The pandemic.
The pandemic.
It changed a
100%.
lot.
Yeah. It absolutely did.
Yeah.
I don't think a lot of people went to go watch Wild Robot.
Guys,
But
people are,
apparently-
I'm going to say it, people are lazy. They don't want to leave their
they
house.
don't go right. And one of the
I'm
comments
sorry,
you
it's
read,
true.
one of the comments you read was like, people don't want to go to the theaters to watch a mid movie.
Sure.
Like, that's fucking wild to me. Like, you go to the movie to have an experience, to see something you've never seen before,
Not to just be
explore
guaranteed something.
right? Not to be guaranteed something. Obviously, I will say, ticket prices are expensive. Not a lot of people have money, and I do want to keep that in mind.
You know,
Yes, you have to kind of budget it.
The other thing I'll say too, and maybe I am too biased, and maybe I am just too easy on Marvel Studios and their efforts. But when you look back at sort of blockbuster movie making and the patterns that we've seen, especially when it comes to comic book characters being adapted for blockbuster movies, okay? Going all the way back to like Batman Forever, Batman and Robin, how Warner Brothers was sort of treating DC, or in my opinion, kind of mistreating DC. Like, they didn't quite see the potential there. Into the 2000s and the early 2000s, we had some bangers with the first couple X-Men's, the first couple Spider-Mans. You know, I enjoyed Ben Affleck's Daredevil, but we like, it's like you can start to see studios kind of like, well, we'll do Fantastic Four, but we got to shoot it all in Toronto. And all these kind of compromises that were happening with these projects that, in my opinion, when Marvel Studios stepped up to plate and they go, we're going to do this our own. We're going to do this on our own, because it really was a division of Marvel at the time until they sort of, you know, they got funding from like Merrill Lynch, and then they got bought out by Disney, but it was, and they had like partnered with Paramount, but it was like their own sort of independent thing where they said, we're going to hire Robert Downey Jr. Yeah, he's a risk because he is a former addict, and you know, he's on the up and up, and we're coming back, and he's sober, and we're going to hire Favreau, who's a comedy guy, to do a big action movie versus an action movie director. and to have them set the tone to kind of find what the tone of Marvel Comics is. And I think they did a brilliant job. In my opinion, Marvel Studios has always at least tried to give you your bang for your buck. And they're trying to make movies that live up to the comic book character, but also like, yes, come see our movies and we promise you we're trying. We're not just pooping this out. This isn't just a Madam Web.
Right.
This isn't just a Kraven the Hunter.
It's all people like you who love the comics and the source material.
Maybe I'm being too nice, but do you know what I'm saying? I've always felt that. And
I felt that too.
And that's kind of where I always sort of rank these movies, because in the grand scheme of Hollywood blockbusters, to me, that's where they should be sort of criticized against. Does that make sense? Like, really, their competition is not Oppenheimer.
No.
Their competition is not The Substance. Their competition is not the classic Godfather films. Their competition is like,
DC and Star Wars.
It's like the Adam Sandler movie Pixels, or like that's a weird poll that I pulled. Like,
Free Guy.
But it's true though.
Yeah. Their competition
Ready
is Ryan
Player
Reynolds'
One.
Free Guy. Yes, that's their competition. Yeah. A big blockbuster movie like that, a big spectacle thing. Yeah, their competition's also, no, I agree with that.
Yeah.
I'll leave it at that. It's that good and bad, right? Good and bad. I love genre movies, and I love the good ones, and I love the ones that aren't that great, but I still love, like John Carter. I'll go to bat for that movie.
I like that movie
I
too.
think it's great, and I think it's better than what it actually is because of my own personal emotional connection to it. But anyway.
I think also, we also have a deep connection to the MCU because we worked on the first 10 years of those movies.
Yeah, I do and don't, because on one hand I do, because it was such an incredible time in our lives being able to work on those movies, and I appreciate being able to work on those movies, but I don't necessarily let it give me a pass because I know how 11th hour a lot of stuff was.
Well, yeah.
And it makes me frustrated with Marvel Studios because I'm like, just write the scripts completely first.
Right. I remember being in one of those, an early version of, I think it was Civil War. The Civil War? No, it was Winter Soldier. We were working on Winter Soldier. And one of our directors comes back with the first initial cut. She's like, this movie's bad. This movie's really bad, guys. I don't think it's going to work. And then it came together.
I watched one of the I don't know. It was like an early edit. I don't know what version it was, but it had no visual effects, very little, some animatics, no music, no color grade. And I watched it and I was like, this
of Winter Soldier?
Of the Avengers.
Of Avengers 1?
And I was like,
no, wasn't it Age of Ultron or Avengers 1?
It was the first Avengers.
Oh, it was Avengers 1? Yeah,
and I was like, this looks like a TV movie.
The stinker.
Oh, shit. There's
Some people
trouble.
would still say it looks like that.
Yeah.
But
which it does.
That movie came
color
together.
corrected and with the visual. And then I went to go see in the theater, and I was telling my friends that I went with, I was like, I don't know. My expectations are really low because I watched one of the edits and it looks really rough.
Yeah.
And then I saw it, and with the music and the visual effects and the whole thing, it came together.
Yeah, it really did.
So sometimes, even at the 11th hour, they come together.
We did get to watch that one on the Disney lot, remember? So that kind of...
Not Avengers 1, I didn't.
Oh, you didn't?
No.
Oh,
I don't know if I did either.
I did.
Oh, really?
Awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
No, I did not.
Yeah, that was fun.
I can't remember where well, maybe I did.
I saw Avengers 1 where we saw Brave New World.
That's so
where I
okay.
saw
That's
it.
nice.
so funny.
That's a nice little. That's a nice.
Yeah.
Little.
Anyway, you know what's crazy? They're about to start filming the next Avengers movie, and that movie comes out next year.
I know.
Yeah.
That's the other thing.
How crazy is that?
That's
I don't
wild,
love.
dude.
We have no idea who's going to
The
be in that
12-month
movie.
turnaround time is crazy.
But also,
Yeah,
that's
way
what I'm
too
worried
short.
about.
They better have been working on the animatics for that a year and a half ago.
know.
That's
I know.
crazy.
Yeah.
Anyway, it's either going to be awesome and it's all going to come together, or it's going to be real bad. But in any case, guys, we're almost done with the multiverse saga, and then we can get back to business, which is X-Men proper, Fantastic Four proper.
Adamantium. We didn't even talk about Adamantium.
I know. Well, because they didn't really give us enough.
I feel like
It's just a seed planting.
Falcon is going to be made of adamantium. I think he's going to have adamantium grafts in his body.
What?
I think so because he got
Joaquin
messed
Torres?
up. Yeah, because he got messed up at the
Dang.
end of that movie.
That'd be
He was
crazy.
on life support, dude.
That'd
be crazy.
I feel like they're going to experiment with adamantium grafts on his body.
Interesting.
Potentially giving him some maybe implants of superpowered things, Falcon type things.
That's one of the comments that we had, I think, in our Discord is like, do you want Sam Wilson or Joaquin Torres to have superpowers or to leave them as sort of the tech level? I like that they're tech. I like that they're not that they're just human, and that they don't have any sort of enhancements or whatever. But
I'm
we'll
fine
see.
with that.
I mean, he's got a whole Wakandan vibranium suit.
dude.
Well, not anymore.
And they did some fun shit with that, with those wings. Anyway, that was real cool.
I can't wait for his adamantium wing set too, because you know that's what they're
Yeah,
doing.
absolutely.
Also, we didn't even talk about the fact that adamantium is stronger than vibranium in this world.
Yeah, I mean
that's wild.
That's kind of true in the comics too, isn't it? Or are they matched?
Adamantium was weaker than vibranium.
No. But
Google
because
it.
Adam, oh my God, you're gonna make me do it. I'm gonna bring my encyclopedia next
Google
week.
it.
I'll bring my encyclopedia. The other
Okay.
thing we didn't mention too, which I don't have a ton of. A lot of people were boycotting this movie because of the Israeli character that was included in the film, the Ruth character, who I thought that the actor did a very good job. I thought that the character was. You thought she was okay?
I didn't care for that character.
Oh,
Okay,
really?
Yeah.
Interesting. I just think that you could tell while watching the movie that they went in and probably took out the background of the character being in the IDF, in the Israeli Defense
I
Force,
see.
which is a very controversial thing, and a lot of people did not want that, and a lot of people saw even the comic book character when she was designed like that to be propaganda to sort of make that more palatable. But they said she was born in Israel, and then she was also a Black Widow trained,
Black Widow, yeah.
which I thought was an interesting, very MCU. Like, okay,
Yeah.
that's a great way
That's
to
how she has all this
to explain that a person just has like badass skills. Like,
Yeah.
oh, okay, got it. They're that.
She trained in the Red Room.
I was honestly a little disappointed. I would have rather preferred to know and understand more about Sam's informant, who we got nothing of.
Who was Sam's informant?
The other agent, the other female agent that was in the movie.
Oh yes, the one that was working with the
Yeah.
president.
I was
And
like,
again,
give me
I
a
don't
little
know.
more there.
I don't know
Yeah,
if that
that's true.
character was the love interest character.
Yeah, I have no
I'm not
idea.
sure. I also like this is
That's
another.
true. I forgot she kind of
Yes.
just like disappeared.
Yes,
Yeah.
and
Oh,
and
shit.
I would have liked
Okay.
more of that as well. And then the last thing I'll say too, as a comic book fan, they included a character who's like a supporting character in Captain America comics. That I was very happy he was in it. He was just the white dude with a beard that gets killed, but his last name was like Dunphy, and he's a character in the comics that I
army
believe.
guy?
Yeah, that I
Yeah,
believe
yeah.
goes
Oh, yeah,
by
yeah, yeah.
Army dude.
D-Man or Demolition Man,
Oh, okay.
who is a fan favorite comic book character because he was like this homeless guy who had like mental problems, who Captain America Steve Rogers like helps build up, and he wears a costume that's kind of like
It looks
Wolverine's
exactly
at one
like
point.
Wolverine.
okay.
And so
Looks
he
like
goes.
Wolverine and Daredevil put together.
Yeah.
He's sort of like a chunky guy. And he's
Yeah,
like
yeah.
a
I
brawler.
I like him. I like
and
him.
he ends up going by D for Demolition, but he's sort of D-Man, and he's always an ally and friend to like, but kind of a comedic relief. Yeah, D-Man.
Yeah.
And he sort of
Yeah.
becomes a friend to
Big
Steve
D.
Rogers.
D-Man.
Big D. So I was happy that he was in the movie, Dennis Dunphy. And I was like, oh, wait, like halfway through the
Cool
movie,
pull.
hearing his
Yeah,
name,
yeah,
I was
yeah.
like, because he often has a beard and he kind of
Yeah,
has
yeah,
that
yeah.
look, I was like, hey, wait a minute, I know that white guy.
He's just
I'm
a
like,
D-Man.
that's him. And then he got killed. I was like, oh, that sucks. But then I was also like, well, I didn't know what else
That's fine.
much more you
What
could
else
do
can
with
you
that
do?
character.
Yeah,
I was
yeah.
happy that he was at least included.
Yeah, yeah,
yeah.
But that was cool. So
It sounds like we
yeah.
need to do a part 2 of this because
I-
there's a few things.
Well, here's
that
the
we
thing.
missed.
The part 2 is going to be Thunderbolts.
Mhm.
I think
guess,
next
yeah.
week we're going to have a completely new topic. We're going to talk about something else. And then maybe it'll be Invincible. Maybe it'll be
Ooh,
Spider-Man freshman
let's bring
year.
all our
Or Your
comics.
Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man. Maybe it'll be, it's something else. It doesn't have to be
We're
superheroes.
gonna
It
have a
could be
guest
whatever.
next week too.
Are we really?
DJ
Oh yeah,
Woodridge.
yeah, yeah.
Well, there we go. We're
having
gonna
DJ.
be talking to DJ.
We're having DJ,
Perfect.
yeah.
We'll just let him steer the
Yeah,
thing.
yeah, yeah.
But we will continue talking about this franchise,
Yeah.
Marvel Studios efforts, the Marvel Cinematic Universe, probably by the time the next movie comes out, which is going to be Thunderbolts, which I'm really excited about.
Yeah.
So hopefully it's great.
It'll be an interesting conversation to have just over the course of the next few months to see like what the anticipation is going into Thunderbolts and the Fantastic Four.
Yeah.
But also just like talking about the movie going experience in general, because it
Yeah.
is so different than where it was even when Infinity War and Endgame came out.
Yeah.
A lot of the stuff frustrates me, but
Yeah.
whatever. I like talking about it just to get other people's perspectives. But yeah, I'm glad we had this chat and I'm glad we got to see this movie. I'm actually excited to go see it again in 3D.
Maybe
'Cause I
maybe
really
we
want
should
to.
maybe we should go find like rotten reviews of these Phase 1 and Phase 2 movies and
just
read
tear 'em
little
apart.
snippets. No,
Yeah.
read snippets of people like in case you forgot what people said of Iron Man 2.
Right.
Yeah.
Here's what they said. It was not all sunshine and rainbows
Yeah.
when
Yeah,
these
yeah,
movies
yeah.
were coming out. It was this. But anyway, all
Anyway,
right.
take us home, Adam.
Okay.
But guys, of course, let us know your thoughts in the comments below. How did you feel about Captain America: Brave New World? Do you agree? Disagree? You're somewhere in the middle. Let us know. Check out everything else that we're watching. Check out our Patreon, our merch shop. What else? Just watch everything. We'll see you guys next week. Bye.
Heroes Reforged is gonna react. Heroes Reforged is gonna review. Heroes Reforged is gonna discuss. That's why we are watching